Welcome to Balkans Debrief. I'm Ilva Tare, a resident senior fellow at the Atlantic Council's Europe Center. Today, we will focus on the growing protest in Serbia over the controversial lithium mining project in the Jadar Valley. While the government promotes this initiative as a game-changing boost to the economy, local communities are sounding the alarm on environmental risks and government accountability, heightened by the recent tragic loss of 14 lives at Novi Sad railway station. Joining me today is Professor Ivanka Popovic, one of the founders of the ProGlas movement and also a former rector of the University of Belgrade. Thank you and welcome, Ivanka. I hope we will discuss about the roots of this resistance, the government's ambitions, and what this all means for Serbia's future.
Thank you, Ilva. Ilva, it's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you so much. And I'll start with the first question that is around the fact that what do you think, in your view, what has driven such a rare unity among Serbian citizens against this project, the lithium mining, despite their political or social differences?
Well, I think what we're seeing now is a culmination of the system breaking down and not meeting citizens' expectations. First and foremost, many of the communal services such as water supply, sewage, landfills, sanitary landfills, they're all failing in the respect that they're not functioning. So something as challenging and high tech as a complex that would include a mine, a processing plant, and then also a place where you would leave the residue of the process is something that has, I have to say, really made people frightened because people have lost trust in the system, in that the various safeguards that exist through the functioning of institutions, that independent institutions that would monitor the process would not function for the needs of the people, but for the needs of those who would earn some money off of this project. And this is a real fear because, as I said, we've seen very simple projects fail. For example, I'll give you one really shocking example. For example, you have simple water supply systems in Serbia that provide running water. More than one third of this water is lost somewhere in the pipes because they have holes in them. So if we cannot even provide a full transfer of running water, how can we talk at all about some kind of higher technological level? And the second point that I would like to make, there are some other projects that have already been realized in Serbia that have caused significant um, pollution and have affected the health of citizens in the eastern part of Serbia. So when people put two and two together, it doesn't really matter what your political affiliation is. You are really needing to respond to protect yourself and your family and your future.
Professor, I wanted to ask you, how are the citizens and you that are part of the protest and other citizens that have joined this cause, how do you balance the concerns about the environmental damage that you are mentioning with the potential economic benefits, such as jobs and infrastructure investment from this project, the Yadar Lithium?
So I would like to make something very clear. I am a chemical engineer and I fully understand how such a processing plant could function. And with all the safeguards that could exist, and even then there would be some risk. But considering how this country functions, I think it's a really serious issue that we are facing here. And my second point that I want to make, this is not a population that is against technological progress, because for decades and in former Yugoslavia, this was an area that was really growing very quickly in terms of economic development, industrial growth. But what we see now is the offset of potential gains, which I have to say would not be significant because the multilateral company Rio Tinto is the owner of this complex, and actually the very poor arrangement of how Serbia would be compensated in terms of mining fees and things is such that there would be insignificant revenue for Serbia. On the other hand, the potential problems are tremendous. And I will also explain why this is an unusual situation that we have with this potential complex. First of all, it's situated in fertile agricultural land that has for centuries been used for these purposes. It is one of, it's not a breadbasket, but it's a place where fruits, vegetables are grown. There is a very lively agricultural activity. And the second point, because of the increasing threat of lack of quality water supply, this location is directly above what is a very significant aquifer. It's a regional reservoir of underground water that in the future could supply Belgrade and surroundings and also this area. Any type of interference above ground could pollute this water. So I think it's a gamble that many people and most people think are not worth it, because even if there were money to compensate for damages, the funds required to correct the situation would far outweigh what the actual economic gain was. So, as let's say, as a concerned citizen, but also as someone who is, I think, sufficiently technically literate, I could say that this is a very, very risky project that would not provide the benefit that Serbia needs. And I do believe that Serbia needs economic development, industrial growth, but maybe in projects that would not be so risky as this one.
Professor, apart from the government backing this project, there are EU countries, governments, and corporate support for the lithium mining in Jadar Valley. How do you think the citizens and the protesters can have their voiced concerns heard compared to the West, let's say, supporting this project of the government?
Well, this is also something that has disturbed people. As you know, Serbia is a candidate country that has not been very, let's say, efficient into fulfilling the requirement to join the European Union. So for us, it's still a long road ahead. But on the other hand, Serbia has signed an agreement with the EU dealing with critical resources. And because these lithium reserves are quite significant. There are also other resources available in Serbia. And this is fine, as I said, when you have a mutually beneficial partnership that will be beneficial for both sides. What I see here is that maybe that there is on the side of the European Union, unfortunately, more a belief that the benefit would outweigh the risk. And of course, the benefit would be almost exclusively for the European Union and not for us. And what we have seen that also Prime Minister Scholz, the German Prime Minister, visited Serbia in the summer, and there was some, as I said, this agreement was signed. Also, Mr. Shepard was here from the European Union, and in some ways, Germany almost wanted to provide guarantees that the project would run smoothly. But as you know, then I don't believe that in any case in history that one country could guarantee for another country the implementation of a project. And what we all have seen is the collapse of the German coalition that was in power. So I think there will be new elections in Germany. No one can guarantee who the new prime minister will be. So this is more or less, I would have to say, a smokescreen for the Serbian government to say, well, see, the Germans are guaranteeing this, so it'll be fine. It won't be fine, and each country is responsible for, well, its own activities. And I think we have to be very responsible for our own population. We don't want to be, let's say, uncooperative, and we also, yeah, well, some of us here, part of the European Union anyway, but in a way that we would like to see an even partnership that would not somehow see as a relationship where one side is having much more benefit than the other.
How do you assess the government's handling of the public opposition to the lithium mining? And in your view, what steps are needed to address citizens' concern? Is there, in your opinion, any potential ideal scenario that all the concerns, environmental concerns, can be addressed and the project can continue?
Well, I would say that this is an issue that far surpasses environmental issues. We're talking about the need for social change in this country and a government that would be willing to implement it. And as you know, in 2022, there were mass demonstrations in Belgrade and other places in Serbia where the number of people that were actually protesting was such that the government pulled the plug on this project, halted it, and said they will stop the project. That was 2022. After elections this year, which were a very like the specific process where unfortunately the population became fully aware of the amount of manipulation and tampering with voting was occurring. In the summer, we also had very, very large uh, uh, demonstrations dealing with lithium because after the elections in June, the government said, yes, we are now continuing with the project, knowing that there will be less opposition because there are no new elections to fight. And this is something that really disturbed people and brought them out into the streets again. So what we're seeing is an abuse of power by the government. So we all fully recognize that in a democracy, the majority will rule. But if this majority has been made to manipulate the processes, which is highly probable in this case, then you wonder about the legitimacy of this government. Also, when the institutions have been hijacked, when you have a judiciary that is not responding in the proper way, but only for the needs of the government, and independent institutions that could monitor not only the environmental aspect, but any other, like a financial aspect, whether there's anything that's going on, we are really worried. And the recent tragedy in Novi Sad, this is a town 80 kilometers to the north of Belgrade, where the roof of the newly renovated train station collapsed, killing now 15 people and leaving 2 people fighting for their lives, is something that really sent the message home because the first aspect with Jadar, we know the consequences of mining in eastern Serbia. Now we know because of uh, very questionable contracts that were signed, obvious significant corruption that is going on. A train station that was opened twice in the previous years by politicians and hailed as a tremendous step forward, has made it insecure that no, where you are in Serbia, in some kind of a building that has been somehow maybe renovated, you are at risk really for your life. And I don't think that fear is the best driving force for social change, but it's becoming quite a significant factor to making people aware of their rights as citizens and that they need to do something to make a change and change this country into a functioning democracy where government works for the people and not that the people are working for the benefit of the government.
And as one of the founders of the ProGlas movement, the For Vote movement, how do you see grassroots activism shaping national debates on issues like lithium mining? Could this current public outcry over lithium be a catalyst for broader democratic changes in Serbia, in your view?
Yeah, Tuva, I think you're quite right because this ProGlas is a play on words. It means pro vote, but it also means pro voice because glass is voice. That means we would like as a group to be an initiative that makes people socially aware and aware of their civic rights and duties as active citizens to maintain our society and get it moving in the right direction. The various civic initiatives have increased over the years because citizens are disappointed by opposition parties that somehow are not managing to voice the needs of the citizens and are maybe seen sometimes as maybe looking for their own narrow interests to maybe enter parliament, which is maybe being too rough on this opposition, which is very weak and it's not sufficiently united. But it's clear that it's not only citizens group, grassroots organizations, but also these opposition parties and perhaps new ones that will grow out of these grassroots organizations will be needed. It will have to be a very massive front encompassing all parts of the political spectrum and active citizens to try to make a change. So yes, I think this is a topic because if you look at it, either from the environmental, political, economic, any aspect, it's a sort of a showcase of everything that's wrong in this country and what we need to do to change it. So I think, yes, that this is the beginning of a movement that will continue, and it will be very, very persistent and has a lot of energy, and does not matter how long it will take, but it will try to change this country for the better.
And lastly, how has media coverage shaped public opinion on the issue of the lithium mining and the civic movements that it has sparked, in your view?
Oh, that's a very sensitive issue. I'd say it's a very depressing one. Serbia, as you know, unfortunately, does not have freedom of the press. You have state controlled media, regardless of whether they are state funded or private. And you actually have only a few independent media that do not have national coverage. So at the moment, all national coverage is by government controlled media. So a good part of the population is not even getting a balanced view of what is going on. It has increased the importance of social networks trying to get the message out because, as I said, this is not someone trying to sell a better product. It's a question of providing the population with all the necessary information that they themselves can make a decision on what they want to do. If they don't want to do anything, that's fine, but they need to have all the information and they don't have it now.
Do you think this protest and, as I said, this rare unity among Serbian citizens will be successful in the end? And what success will be for you? What it will look like?
Well, I'm always an optimist, so yes, I believe that if we will prevail in the end, but it's a learning curve. Serbia is a country that has a very fragile democracy. It doesn't have a democratic tradition. And therefore, it doesn't have a population that is used to be active in governance. More of a passive situation where more or less you vote, agreeing or not agreeing fully with what's going on, and then you sort of are the recipient of what the government rolls out for you. And now we are trying to show and really working on it to show that the citizens themselves have the power and the duty to change the situation in this country. So yes, I'm optimistic, but I cannot give you a time frame.
Thank you very much for sharing your concerns, and I wish you the best of luck with raising the voices and concerns and this activism that you are keeping alive in Serbia. Thank you, Professor Popovic.
Ilva, thank you very much. And I would just like to say one thing at the end. I think it's very important to understand that this is an autonomous, really unique uh, situation where you can hear the voice of the Serbian people. This is not an imported revolution or imported or somehow manipulated situation. I think we are now really seeing and hearing that people want to change. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Welcome.